There's some kind of misunderstanding here.
What?
Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
You don't know?
to my party, we're just getting started.
Good morning, everybody. Hopefully I've got a good sound check. If you give me a 5x5 or something like that, that would be super duper cool. Going to go directly to the chat. Today is going to be a hard day for some people because they're going to have to come to the realization of why the hell am I cleaning my cell phone? What this day is all about, what this live stream is all about. As the thumbnail shows, it is about Civil War, what it would look like, and some of the things that nobody's actually talking about. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Rumble chat because that's the one I fire up first every morning when I do these live streams. And Deb the Sheepdog, first, Hicktown Honey. Number 2, Jordan O'Neill, you are the turd. Who else we got here? We got Catitude, who is 4th. Yay! Where are we at here? Let's see here. Wait, if there's 3, apparently there's nothing. There was nothing but women inside the Rumble chat, with the exception of me, and then West Virginia Pappy came in, and then Bob came in. So thank you, gentlemen, for showing up. It looks like there is there's 24 people inside the Rumble side. So today Rumble is winning. So far, so good. Looks like there's 14 people on the actually, I've got one in Twitch, and I know who you are. And we got 16 over on the YouTube side. Okay, and then let's go ahead and check the chat on the YouTube side. YouTube's looks like Jordan first, Jeff Davidson, number 2, and Andy Pearson. You are the turd. You are the turd of YouTube, Andy. Let's see. It's just junk. It's too early for YouTube. There's no such thing. And where we got here, Spags is here, guys. If you don't know Spags Unfiltered, he's got his own channel. He does some good stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing my stickers in his background. Where we got here, Brian Smith, Preston McLean, Captain. There we go. Let's see here. Who else? We got Star checking in from Canada. Looks like she's canning some pork. Where we got here, Spags is writing poetic things in there. Remember, everyone, we have 10 watching and only 3 likes. Help local prepper beat the algorithm. Be sure to like the stream. Yes, thank you very much, Spags, guys. And also on the Rumble side, make sure that you guys hit that like button. If you are new, I'm seeing a few new names. Hit that subscribe button because we do this Monday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. Let's see here. Andy says, I'll be passing by just east of there. Okay, he's talking about going to Kansas. And let's see here. Star, love the song. Bradley says he might be right on time. Good morning. Joel showed up, just finishing watching Grumpy's video. All right. Yeah, I need to watch some of Grumpy's stuff. The algorithm has not been showing me all of the people that I follow for some reason, and I don't know why. By the way, also on the Rumble side, could you guys let me know if I'm coming in like choppy or something? I'm looking at the stream on that side, and it looks awful. It looks absolutely awful. Let me check. Let me look on the YouTube side and see if this is a global phenomenon. Let's see here. Why would I do that? Play. All right. Well, it looks better on YouTube than it does on Rumble, that's for sure. So I think it's an internet thing. Okay, so let's see. Hicktown Honey says it's clear for me. Excellent. All right. Why the hell is the chat not in? Why did the chat overlay turn off? Jesus Christ. It's the lizard people. Oh, that's hilarious. Let's see here. Got Major Ken. Major Ken woke up about damn time. Did CW 2.0 start? No. Tefel, good morning. Rumble is almost always under some kind of DDoS attack. Yeah, I mean, they were clear as a whistle yesterday, but yeah, they did get nailed a couple days ago. So, I mean, it is what it is. As long as the transmission's going out, I guess I'm okay. I guess I'm running on a 4K camera, so, there's no telling. Let's see here. Where we got gaming demand. I got you, gaming. Hey, welcome to the channel. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can get informed. We do this every morning at Monday through Friday, 9:30 in the morning. Okay, so we got that all out of the way. I don't really have any stupid news queued up for you guys today because I wanted to try to stay on point as much as possible. This is actually going to be more of a listening than a watching, unless you really want to see me run my gums. So there was two major issues with this whole. If you guys haven't seen that movie trailer that came out called Civil War, and they're talking basically about how a civil war in the United States might look. It looks like an interesting movie, but the first thing that came out, I mean, everybody from frickin', Bob the Prepper to frickin', to all the way up to Alex Jones is screaming predictive programming. But it all comes down to just bad movie making. It's either going to be a good movie or it's not going to be a good movie. And this is not a movie review because obviously it's just a trailer. The trailer looks interesting. If you were there for the very beginning of me turning this thing on, you know what? I'll play it for you one more time just to get your attention. Here we go.
There's some kind of misunderstanding here.
What?
Well, you're American, okay?
Okay. What kind of American are you?
You don't know?
Okay, so it looks to be a very interesting movie, a very serious movie. The trailer will knock your socks off. Hopefully, it isn't one of those movies where all the best scenes in the entire movie are in the 2-minute trailer. The bottom line, it's not going to lie. I haven't been this excited based on a movie trailer since the failed Gray State movie trailer. Yeah, I mean, the actors look pretty good. Okay. Everybody's excited about a new movie. Here's the thing, guys. The two things that came out of this were, one was predictive programming. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to talk to you guys about predictive programming, and it's semi-detailed. Good morning, Leroy. Good morning, Truth Speak Dad, and grainy video, but audio is great. Tina, good morning to you as well. So, like I was saying, this is going to be more of a listening than anything else. I will check into, because I do have two screens, but I only have, well, you know what? I guess I could move that over. I guess I could move this over here and I would still be able to see some things. Where are we at here? Why does the chat keep doing this? It's just, I don't know if the chat is acting stupid, guys. I'm going to throw a test up there real quick just to see what happens. It's, do me a favor, guys. I think we need to wake the algorithm up. Do me a favor and type the number 1 in the chat, whichever profile you're on. It doesn't matter. We've got to get this. There's something wrong with the chat. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's my software, but it feels like it's on the YouTube side. So do me a favor, whether you're in Rumble or YouTube, type the number 1 in the chat. Let's go ahead and wake this thing up. And good morning, Beecher. I see you just popped in. Looks like Jeff David Spag. You guys are all getting comms. All right, good to go. So I'm happy with that. Thank you very much, guys. So predictive programming. All right. So the real question is, most of the tinfoil hatters will throw them on there, pull them down as tight as they can and strap them down when it comes to predictive programming. Now, what is predictive programming? It's there are a myriad of different definitions, but it's what has happened is predictive programming is an analytical statement. It's more for statistical analysis. Okay. And people have turned it into something that is like evil and dangerous and whatever it is. Now, it can be used as such, but the reality is that most of the time, what we see as predictive programming really is not what it is. In the particular case of the movie last week, with what is it? Somebody put the name of the movie in the chat. I'll Leave Home or something like that. We talked about that. We watched a little bit of it. I am still in the process of listening to the book, and the only thing that I can see separating the book from the movie is that it's not a black man and his daughter, and there's absolutely no racism whatsoever. It is an elderly black couple who owned the house. So I think, as usual, the Obamas took it way too far out of context. I'm only to the part on the book right now where they've just decided the kid doesn't feel good. He's throwing up all over the place. He has his teeth haven't fallen out yet, but he's sick, and now they're going to go try and find a doctor. So leave the world behind. Thank you, West Virginia Pappy. Appreciate that. Okay, I need to. God, let me do something here. This is just so weird the way this chat is acting, and making no sense. It's just kind of like when I minimize the chat on the Restream side. That's the software that I use. It makes all the chat disappear. So, okay. So the real question is with these movies, is this really happening? You know, the idea that the U.S. government or other entities have internationally, been intentionally used predictive programming to manipulate or condition the public is generally not supported by credible evidence, and is often considered a conspiracy theory. We're going to hear that a lot here. While governments and other institutions may use media for various purposes, including shaping public opinion or disseminating information, the deliberate use of predictive programming is described in the conspiracy theory as largely speculative. So is it happening? Is it not happening? I think it has a lot to do with how you feel about it. It's important to approach such claims critically. Come on there. There we go. It's important to approach such claims critically and consider alternative explanations. Explanations. Sometimes patterns. Can I make this any bigger so I can read it a little better? There we go. Sometimes patterns or perceived predictions may be coincidence, and the human tendency to find connections or meaning in random events known as aphenia can contribute to belief in conspiracy theories. Governments and institutions do engage in public relations, information campaigns, and strategic communication to influence public perception, but these efforts are typically more overt and aimed at shaping opinions on specific issues rather than predicting future events in a hidden or encoded manner. If there were concrete evidence of intentional predictive programming by the government, it would likely be serious ethical or legal concerns. It's essential to rely on credible sources, critical thinking, and evidence-based reasoning when evaluating claims related to conspiracy theories or selective manipulation of public perception. So, with all that said, guys, if you think that the last movie we talked about is full of predictive programming, type the number 2 in the chat. I'd love to know what you really think. All right, let's see here. Never miss. Where we got here? See Jules Munt Act of 2012. Jules, I don't know what that is. See Smith Munt Act of 2012. Of course, it's happening. Operation Mockingbird is real and it's public. It's not a conspiracy theory. Gotcha. And I've got nothing on the Rumble side. Did Rumble die? Did Rumble run away and die? Where are we at here? There's my Rumble screen. It doesn't look like it. It looks like there's 44 people watching it right now. I think we're just waiting for the delay, that kind of thing. All right. So with that said, what is predictive programming? Predictive programming refers to the theory that certain elements, symbols, or messages embedded in media, such as movie, television shows, or advertisements, are intentionally placed to predict or to prepare the public for future events. Proponents of predictive programming suggest that these subtle hints or symbols serve as a form of mass psychological conditioning, influencing people's thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors. However, it is important to note that predictive programming is largely considered a conspiracy theory, and there is limited empirical evidence to support this claim. Here are some key points often associated with predictive programming. Coffee in. The first one is symbolism and hidden messages. Supporters of predictive programming argue that filmmakers and other media creators use symbols and hidden messages to foreshadow or prepare the public for significant events. This could include symbols related to political movements, technological advancements, or other societal changes. So far, it all makes sense. 2, mass conditioning. The theory suggests that exposure to these symbols or messages in popular media influences public perception and acceptance of future events. By repeatedly presenting certain ideas or symbols, the theory suggests that people become more accepting or desensitized to these concepts when they eventually occur in reality. Oh, first dawn in the morning. There we go. 3, control and manipulation. Some proponents of predictive programming claim that powerful individuals or organizations use media to control and manipulate public opinion, steering it in a certain direction for their benefit. 4, confirmation bias. Critics argue that the connections made between media content and real-world events are often a result of confirmation bias. People may selectively interpret information to confirm their pre-existing beliefs or suspicion. And the last one is coincidence. Another criticism of predictive programming is that many of the alleged predictions are simply coincidences. Media creators may incorporate certain symbols or themes for artistic or narrative purposes without any intent to predict or influence future events. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and go to the chat. And we're going to check the Rumble chat real quick. Some stuff just popped in there. We got some ones, we got some twos. Bob Clancy says 3, the world is too full of conspiracy theories and leftists are happy with the new strategy. And very true, Bob. Very true. No, we are here. Kristen, I don't recognize you. Make sure that you do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. I do this every day except for Saturdays and Sundays. Just wrapping presents. Nice. Tina, working so hard to chat. Let's see. I feel they're trying to alarm the non-preppers. Deep sheepdog. You mean like wake up the non-preppers? That's very possible. Also, I just remembered something too, guys, from the book that I'm reading. The Leave the World Behind. The other thing is that they kind of lead you to believe that the guy who owns the house is semi-prepared, but they never really talk about it. They show you his basement. It's like a place for grandma to come and stay, that kind of thing. But in the book, they're actually prepared. They don't have like a bunker or anything that they've told us about yet in the book. But they have everything they need for medicine and health and hygiene, and everything is stocked and marked, and they even use the term pantry. So it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. Let's see here. True Speak Dad says predictive programming is, in my opinion, about mass psychosis. And you're absolutely true. It is to an extent, but here's the thing. I'm only going to say one word to you, Truth Speak Dad. Simpsons. All right, let's see. I'm going to go and check. Let me check the, you know what? I wonder if I can get this to work. I don't think I can. I need to make this bigger. That's what she said. Why are none of my, it's like none of my, I've been using Bing. I've been experimenting with Bing, guys. And I'm trying to find out, I don't think I can pop that chat out. I'm trying to experiment with it, to give it a fair shake. Let's see here. Where we got here? You know what? I need to move this window back over here. It's just way too hard to manage over there. Okay, so let me go, and I'm going to go to the YouTube slash. What do we got here? 24 on YouTube and 1 on nobody on Facebook. It's always amazed me. Let's see. Good morning from Texas. Jules, good morning. Fernando, for example, the 2 new movies about SHTF. Yes, that's kind of what we're talking about. Let's see. Rumble was glitching. I believe it. It's Rumble. Jordan O'Neill says a civil war would cost the government so much money in benefits that they might be preparing the non-preppers. Yeah, I mean, that's logical. That is a logical thought process. So Good Boys Guild, you are not late. You are right on time. Let's see. Window Liquor showed up. Good to see you, bro. Stockholm Syndrome. We're kind of reaching, but yeah, it's a possibility. Let's see. Deborah says, so it's a form of brainwashing to alarm non-preppers and to pit citizens against each other. If it is what that a lot of people think it is, then half of that is true. I don't know about pitting against each other, but we definitely have to pay attention to our neighbors more than ever now. Let's see here. Jules says, Window Liquor, how do you still have that emoji on ScrewTube? They took mine earlier this year. That's too funny. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on. And the reason we're going to do that is because I just wanted to talk about the predictive programming, because it was actually, it seemed to be kind of a huge thing in the tinfoil hack community. And it was a little mind blowing to see how many people had so many differing opinions on it, whether it's happening, whether it's not happening, if it's just coincidence. And so everybody seemed to have like an opinion on it, which means that they're aware of it to some extent. And so I thought it was important to kind of talk about it and get your opinions on things like that. But now let's talk about what a second American Civil War would actually look like. Now, there is I'm going to give some credit here to the original article that I discovered. I had read it in the past, but it's like it's all about it's unfortunate. It's written by a guy named Paul Mason. It's been reproduced by several different media corporations, but it's very his perspective is very anti-Trump, very totalitarian, and basically his mindset in his writing is that if Trump was ever reelected, that the world would end. It would cause a civil war. It's like, why? Because the left, it's people on the left like to talk. 99.9% of the time, they have no spine. So a civil war would never start because Donald Trump became the president. It would probably start if someone who is conservative weren't elected, and that's kind of the focus. So shout out to Paul Mason for the original idea for this, based off of his article. But yeah, some things had to be removed, some things had to be chopped up, some things had to be paraphrased. All right, so here we go. And whoever gave me that, whoever you were, put something in the chat that you gave me the idea to have a spoonful of honey, because I'm going to start keeping like a thing of honey out here, and before I start this live stream, because my throat is just itchy all the damn time now. One last look at the chat before we get started. Let's see here. Where are we at here? You guys are crazy. Kentucky Goatman. By the way, if you guys didn't know this, Kentucky Goatman won a prize. I can't exactly remember what it is, but he won a prize from another channel. Good job. Good job. Make sure you reply. You had 48 hours and you're already 24 hours in. All right. Let's see here. I still think that releasing a Civil War movie and modern day is a bad idea. So many people are open to influence that this might start. Oh, excuse me. That's yawn number 2. Old looting and rioting in the streets. I don't think that's true. I think that's those kind of people. They're not proactive. They're not the people that do the riots. They're reactive. They don't sit around and go, let's go riot, guys. They go, hey, there's an opportunity, man. There's no cops and everything's going crazy. Let's go down and break in and take some stuff. That's their modus operandi. And good morning, Grumpy. Good to see you, bro. Let's see here. What do we got here? Hey, Grumpy Yoda. Grumpy / Yoda. Gotcha. Where are we at here? Local honey. Yeah, I actually do use local honey. In the movie Leave the World Behind the You, there is a QR code in the map they show. Wow. I didn't know that, Brian. Did you get a chance to look at it? Because that's interesting. That's definitely interesting. Let's see here. And it looks like you got the prize, Goatman. They're sending it next week. Good for you. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Let's see here. See, Bob agrees with me. Correct analysis of trigger and ... So he's typing something. I want to go see the Civil War movie. Well, it doesn't come out until April. So let's see here. No, I did not get a chance. Gotcha. Well, I mean, we're going to have to look that up. Spag says, I think a civil war will happen if local prepper doesn't get his coffee. That is a definite possibility. That's why I always keep I always keep the beans close and grind them myself. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get into this, guys. What are we at here? We're right on time. So, what would a second American Civil War look like? Imagine the American Civil War had never happened. Would the world be a better or a worse place? America stands at greater risk of armed conflict today than any other time since Appomattox. The question has become relevant following Joe Biden's dramatic Pennsylvania speech, which a lot of people have already forgotten, in which he's flanked by U.S. Marines. He attacked the MAGA movement, and after the Mar-a-Lago raid, may react violently to prosecution of its figurehead, Donald Trump. So basically, we're calling Donald Trump like the leader of the revolution or of a civil war. Two concepts are missing: a theory of fascism and a theory of capitalism. Civil wars used to be about class, but now they're about culture and ethnicity. Stopping them is a good thing, and there is stuff democratic governments can do if they can find the willpower. But if stopping them is not a good thing, what if faced with an insurrectionary mass movement, defeating it by any means necessary is the primary goal? I ask this question not because I want to diminish proposed solutions, which lie along the I'm going to use my buttons here, lie along the same access as the militant democracy 2.0 project. You might want to look it up. It's just that I know I now doubt that they would work before some kind of political confrontation and the insurrectionists happened. Now, there's going to always be preconditions for a breakdown. There's got to be a reason for civil war, guys. There's got to be a reason for a civil war. And there are 5 preconditions for a civil war in the United States. You know, the first one, and I want you to listen to these guys and think about current events. Think about how we are, where we are in the United States. And the descent from democracy into anarchy is normally the first one. And this denotes hybrid regimes with formal democratic institutions, but de facto authorization or oligarchic control, you know, basically ruling by edict or executive order. And we've seen that a lot. The next one would be the emergence of factionalism. And this one is actually important. As opposed to mere political polarization, and in particular of a super faction. You guys are going to start hearing that. You're going to start hearing the term super faction in the news a lot, because if you haven't noticed, in the last 72 hours, polls are coming out that are showing maps of the United States that are all red. And this is attributed to the belief that Trump is going to be the president again, and that someone who is not a Democrat will not be the president. So when you have that much support, it becomes a super faction. Okay, so the emergence of factionalism, as opposed to mere political polarization, and in particular of a super faction, where a combination of culture, religion, ethnicity, region, and class combine to create a solid and immovable loyalty to a project of civil conflict. Now, what does that really mean? Race war? No, truth speak, Dag. It's the exact opposite of that. What is this? What this factionalism, this emergence of factionalism or super factionalism? Think of the things that I just said. That's a combination of culture, religion, ethnicity, region, and class combined to create a solid and immovable loyalty to a project of civil conflict. So culture, American culture, religion, whatever you want to believe. No one religion is right or wrong. This is the American way. Ethnicity, we are the melting pot. Region, where are most of the red things at? In the country. And class, this is a very strong variable, because the class is the middle class. And we're going to talk about the middle class and how it's directly related to civil war. Not a joke. All right. So the next one is loss of status. There is one thing that people will not tolerate, guys, and that is losing status in a place they believe is theirs. People work their lives to get to a certain point, and there is a class. There are classes. There is upper class. There is lower class, and I don't mean that as like, hey, you're low class. I mean as in like, hey, you don't make as much money because you don't have this or you don't have that, or you made these life choices or whatever it is. And then you have the middle class, which has been slowly not just necessarily being decayed, but being destroyed. So think of that when we talk about class. So class and status. So there's one thing that people will not tolerate, and that is losing status in a place they believe is theirs. In the 21st century, the most dangerous factions are once dominant groups facing decline. The stakes are raised when the super faction begins consistently losing elections and thus hope that any of its grievances can be resolved democratically. What do those words mean, guys? It's actually pretty simple. If you're part of a group and none of your needs are being met, and you've tried to follow the political process and use the law, use the Constitution, use our justice and our legal system properly, and nothing is happening, there's only one thing left to do. All right. So, and then lastly, in the points, it's social media acts as an accelerant for traditional conflict entrepreneurs, people gaining money and prestige from incident to violence. We see this in the buildup to most civil wars. Now, the U.S. is well down the path towards civil war. Your key demographic institutions are flawed or dysfunctional, and believe it or not, whoop, that's too far. Come here. Yeah. The Trump super faction is solidified, and the left thinks radicalized. So, here we go. We're going to skip down. We're going to go ahead and check the chat real quick. Wow, Truth Speak Dad has been just typing his little brains out. Let me see what you got here. Let's see here. Good boys go. I want to see the Civil War movie. Let's see. True Speak Dad says it would look like Hunger Games. People would be in districts or like the show Revolution. Well, it would be states. So actually the is ... is for what I won't state because I don't want that to happen. I've got you. Thank you. Thank you, Bob. All right. So Truth Speak wrote me a paragraph in multiple lines. One is elections, in my opinion. Power grid failure before the 2024 election. Another pandemic. A race war. The unaliving of a presidential candidate would start a civil war. Okay, it's not a race war. It's a class war. Widening the gap between the elite and poor, driving the middle class slower. All of those things are variables. They're 100% all actual variables. Let's go ahead and check the YouTube chat. Let's see here. What do we got here? Well, you guys kind of went nuts. Man, I got to stop reading some of these things. Jesus. The QR code is for an abandoned amusement park, symbolic, or just messing with people. Not sure, but I'm glad you caught that one, Grumpy. That's pretty cool. Let's see here. They're good with symbolism. Window Liquor says, I don't see people uniting for a civil war. The powers that will be pick us off one at a time. There's more of us than there are at them, and so they'd be picking for days. Grumpy says, there is the idea that the evil, quote, evil people have to tell people what they are doing. No hiding the agenda of their master. That is a thought that's been going around. Not necessarily buy into it, but it's there. Exactly. Let's see here. Jules, is it rah, rah, rah. Most of them aren't that smart. I feel like the country it's Darwinism for the lower classes. A party war. Don't underestimate Satan and his minions. Well, let's see here. Leaving for a bit. Okay, Kentucky Goatman. He's probably got to go to the bathroom or something. Let's see here. Window Looker says it spells they get more power if they tell you what they are going to do in order to also be justifiable for their wrongdoing. And Spags closes with, Revolution was such a great show until they brought in the nano nonsense. I got you, bro. I got you. Man, my throat is just being stupid today. All right, so how it might look, and this is kind of like something that could happen. So how it might look. Trying to imagine the outbreak, make sure I'm on the right page here, click. Trying to imagine the outbreak of an actual civil conflict in the U.S. It's November. The president-elect has been chosen. Bombs go off in 7 state legislatures. Several competing organizations claim responsibility. Down. The military is paralyzed. Militias fill the gap. Where are we at here? I'm trying to look at the camera and the screen at the same time. Militias fill the gap and begin low-level violence against groups that defy the government. By Inauguration Day, militiamen disrupt the ceremony, triggering 9 days of rioting, which escalates into armed conflict across several states. Now, this might work as a movie treatment, but it's flawed, and as a threat, it's flawed as a threat assessment. The escalation points may come much sooner than expected and might, at the same time, but much more early, driven by politics from above rather than violence from below. So basically, the Civil War will most likely be driven by politics and not by individual actions. Like the left would like you to believe that the Civil War would start because the militia groups slowly got together and secretly communicated and stormed the towers. Yeah, that's what they did. No. Let me give you a quick history lesson. Considering America's original path to civil war, a 5-year low-level civil conflict in Kansas, the attack on Charles Sumner in Congress, John Brown's attempt to spark a slave rebellion, and the radicalization of political discourse after his execution. But the slide from non-consent to war was triggered by the election of Lincoln. Now listen to what I'm saying. Those are key words. The slide from non-consent to war, basically the consent of the governed to war, was triggered by the election of Lincoln, a series of secession declarations, and a carefully choreographed confrontation over Fort Sumter, South Carolina, which took 5 months to play out. The essential precondition, however, was that Americans had become two people, dos. The North and the South were not only divided culturally over the politics of slavery and the limits of federal power, they were living with two incompatible modes of capitalism. The first one is the slave/agrarian mode, and the other is the industrial/urban mode. So let's cut that in half. Agrarian, urban. So the people in today's day and age, that would be the people who live in the city against the people who live in the country. We clearly have different values. And it's more than left or right. It's more than red or blue. It's more than libertarian versus, and I hate to say libertarian because, or it's more liberal, because libertarians hate that the liberals stole that shit from them. It's more than liberals versus conservatives. Okay. So the initial piece is that America has been split into two different classes, two different types of people, two different people with two different belief systems. And that has already happened. Those two modes of production were geographically concentrated in the southeast and the northeast of the USA. So the demographics of the two societies diverged along economic lines. The North was primarily the destination of non-English European migrants and freed slaves. The South's demographic had not changed in 75 years. So once again, if you use that comparison, you have people that want all this change and people who want none of this change. So while the prelude to the original Civil War fits the model of demographic breakdown, super factions and election loss as the trigger, the march to war was more methodical than we know. It was not John Brown who triggered the conflict, despite him trying, but the calm decisions of Southern state legislatures, headed by men who had dreamed of and threatened secession for more than a decade. Both sides of the American business elite knew that. With the industrial development of the continental scale economy, there would have to be a political decision, not just about slavery, but about shaping of the rising industrial capitalist superpower that could no longer coexist with it. One of the strongest arguments against the possibility of civil war in America is that there's no such choice facing the middle class today. Capitalism must be understood as both an economic and geopolitical power. We're not there yet. The middle class doesn't see that they're there yet because the middle class hasn't been stretched far enough. Now, the question is will they get stretched far enough? That'll be the real question. Let's go ahead and check the chat real quick here. Let's see here. Widening the gap between the elites and poor, dividing the middle class lower. We read that. And then let's go ahead and check. God, I really need to make an adjustment to this window. It's so weird. Where are we at here? Guy Fawkes, Revelation would work. There you go, man. I watched that movie a couple weeks ago. It's a good movie. It's a good movie. Let's see here. We got some The Handmaid's Tale beginning scared the hell out of me because if anything happened, it just at the right moment they planned out they could take over. Let's see here. The intervene warfare. Grumpy says the intervene warfare in MO and KS border area in the 1850s. Yeah, exactly. We're already in the era of low level interscene warfare in the U.S. I agree. Did Ian? Hey, good to see you, Ian. Did anybody read 299 Days? Sounds like that to me. No, I'd have to look that up. I have not read the 299 Days. Let's see. Let's see here. Spag says there are so many factors in modern society that were not present during the American Civil War. People will need to be cold and hungry before a real Civil War II will happen. That is a possibility. And yes, unfortunately, that kind of does drive things as well, too. Fernando, good to see you, Fernando. Did you notice the movie trailer for the upcoming movie? It has 2 stars on the flag depicting 2 states. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I'm pretty sure those are the 2 states that seceded. Let's see here. Grumpy Acres Farm says, I've seen nothing that is on target of cooling things. No, there's nothing on target. In fact, everything is intensifying. But the thing is we live in a world that is so focused on instantaneous reaction, instantaneous satisfaction, instantaneous interaction that we don't understand. You know, it's like you've got unfortunately, I hate to think of it this way because I absolutely hate the thought. Things move at the speed of government. You've got to give you an IE, okay? Let me make sure I'm laying this out for you correctly. Hunter Biden gets subpoenaed by the Congress. Hunter Biden shows up to Congress but doesn't go in. He goes over on the Senate side. Swalwell freaking actually facilitates him ignoring Congress, okay? They talk about it in the news. It's been 2 days. Nothing has happened. These are people that are out there. They're public figures. They're in the know, everything. But we know that they both broke the law, but no one has come forward to say that they're being charged yet because they have to do everything by the letter to make sure it's done right. People are calling for these people to be like locked up, to brought before Congress in chains. That is not how our system works. But we're always moving at the speed of government. So people never see all these things that are actually happening until they happen days, months, weeks after a situation comes up. Let's see here. Remember the 5th of November. There you go, Ian. Let's see here. Bradley says, my real opinion. Okay, hold on. Your real opinion, Bradley. Okay. Don't tell me your fake opinion, bro. My real opinion. 1, it won't happen over our president again. It's not moving enough due to the constant bombardment of war stuff we hear daily. And the most important, Gen Z is too lazy. Very, very realistic thoughts. Very realistic thoughts. Like Grumpy was saying, until people are hungry, until people are cold, something's probably not going to happen. Jules says, I think the economic crash, along with all the other nonsense they've been allowed to do, will trigger things. There is a good chance that will trigger things, because the thoughts on the way civil wars start have the economy only has a small piece, only has a small effect on it. The focus of civil wars or revolutions is that you have two people that do not agree with each other, or two groups of people, or two groups of citizens that do not agree with each other, and that they talk and 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 they talk, and then finally there's something that happens on one side where they're like, listen, we got to talk to you guys, and they're like, nah, screw you, we're not talking to you anymore, and they have some effect over those guys, so they're like, oh, good to go, let's go to war. Boom. That's how civil wars start. Let's see here. Nobody cares until it's on their doorsteps. Very true. Still no Epstein client list. Off to the next distraction. There you go. Stop distracting me with Epstein, window licker. Let's see here. Fernando says, I truly believe this is important for us to be on top of the news that is not being told to us on regular news channels. Absolutely. We talked about that in a couple live streams ago. I think it was Wednesday. Where we talked about how they don't want us to hear, or they don't want us to form our own opinions based off of the non-mainstream media news. And here's the funny thing. I always find it interesting, and it kind of blows my mind that sometimes I'll do the research for these live streams, and then like 2 days later, it's on Fox News. Are they copying me? No, they're not copying me. What they're doing is they're making sure that there's actually traction for that story. Otherwise, they're not going to tell it, which means that their news is never going to be up to par, guys. The mainstream media, right, left, center, doesn't matter. They're never going to be up to par, because they're never going to be fast enough for the people like us who want to absorb that information and want to have that information. It's always going to be, couple days late. It's always going to be semi-watered down. It's always going to be made to fit into a 15-second time spot, so you're never going to get the information you want from the mainstream media, and the left knows this, and so they're upset because we won't listen to them. They're mad. All right, let's see here. Let's see, but disagreement and talking is what democracy is. Yes, discourse and discord. Let's see. Deborah says, do you think it will be a civil war with slinging lead or sanctions, lawsuits, and states seceding? Well, I don't think that a state can be sanctioned by the federal government. If you are a legal eagle, please do me a favor and put it in there. If not, don't comment. But I don't think that they can. Because you have to remember that states are protected by federal law. Let's see here. Lawsuits. Yeah, they could do lawsuits. They do it all the time. Technically, we're in a civil war between the states. You got Texas suing the government. You got Texas suing Pfizer. It's the left has made it so that everything that we do, every decision that's made, has to be litigious. They can't have a meeting in the minds. They can't meet in the middle. It's like there's no compromise in it. That's right. There's no compromise, because the left has pushed so hard that the right is like, screw this. We're pushing back. The days of turning the cheek, the old Reagan-esque days of turning the cheek, are over, and the left is pissed because the right won't roll over and say, well, we'll get them later, guys. Yeah. And so now it's completely litigious. They've literally pushed this to the point where, and I told you in the very beginning of the stream, that if there were to be a civil war, it would start with politics. It's that easy. Let's see here. And then states succeeding. Well, you got to remember, we've already had states try to secede. We had some votes on that when the first year of El Presidente's, reign of terror. So, let's see here. Jules, have you seen the dissension in the country at every level? Have you seen the dissension in the country absolutely. Okay, so what do we got here? We got 34 people on Rumble. Thank you, guys. Oh, I thought I was locked up there for a second. And we've got 24 people watching over here on the 23 on YouTube and 1 on Twitch. Do me a favor, guys, on either one of those platforms. Type the number 5. Type the number 5 to wake the algorithm up. The algorithm doesn't like the number 5. Five-finger death punch. Give that 5-finger death punch to the algorithm for me, guys. That'll get things rolling real quick, and it'll tell me that you are still alive and well. And I'm very interested to see the chats coming over from the Twitch because I have not seen. If I haven't seen them, I'm not sure. I think Bob's over there. 50s, not 80s. Laughed out loud. Laugh out loud. John Antigua, I don't recognize you. Thanks for hanging out, man. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Also, guys, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please check that you are. That way, you will get these updates when I put them out. I am working on a few other videos. The video that I did the other day about the UV5R, the radio, the simple radio, man, I pissed some ham heads off. So I've got to make a rebuttal video for that just to stick it right back in their craw. It's not that I don't like ham heads. It's just that I don't like people to think they know everything because, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of training required to do that. The rain and the internet issues are making watching the live impossible. I'll rewatch it later. Have a great day. You too, Jules. I'm sorry that's happening. All right, so let's get back on point, guys. We are running out of time. So, the U.S. at a decision point. To me, the U.S. faces a rational decision point contingent on its decline, just as in 1861 it faced one triggered by its rise. America is a superpower whose position in the global system is in relative decline, and whose domestic economy and culture has been allowed to decline. That's a very powerful statement, guys. The DNC, the GOP, the militias, the politicized judiciary, the gerrymandering congressional boundaries are all symptoms of that decline. The isolationism, the dysfunctional democracy, the reliance on debt all reflect a vision of capitalism that is parasitic to the planet. With his Philadelphia speech, it seems that Biden has decided there are no gains to be made from appeasing the Republican movement, and that the middle class has to be forced to choose between lawlessness and decline or a strong federal-led modernization that can revive growth. Unfortunately, all of these, I'm sorry, shut up, phone. Unfortunately, we all have seen this not happening. The choice facing America then is strategic and economic, not just ideological or political. And the decision will provoke conflict, though it need not end in a shooting war. To avoid the worst case scenario, we need to understand better how and when it might happen. So here's an alternative situation. Here's an alternative scenario for how the U.S. could slide into something we might call civil war. Make sure that's not important. It's not. I'll start at the Fort Sumter moment and work backwards. The Second American Civil War begins when the federal government has to deploy the FBI, other federal law enforcement agencies, or the military into one or more states which are refusing to uphold the rule of law, which means their law, and an armed force loyal to that state resists them. How might we get into this situation? The first route is open defiance by a state legislature. Should Biden, for example, do something like centralizing the election administration, basically controlling federal elections, which is against the Constitution, regulating social media to prevent disinformation. Oh boy, we've already heard that one, haven't we? Eliminating the the electoral college, which the left has been trying to get rid of for years, or purging the police, basically police officers that will do to get rid of police officers that won't do what they're told. It would provide a situation that provokes war for far-right Republican elites in certain states. The second route would be a mixture of the above with open tolerance of non-state actors. For example, a repeat of the invasion of the Michigan legislature, with the state's law enforcement unwilling or unable to clear the venue, plus a Portland-style mobilization of armed far-right militias. The most likely venue for such an insurrection would be the so-called American Redoubt, states centered in Idaho. If you guys don't know what that is, the American Redoubt, you might want to look it up. The third route, which again would likely mix with the other twos in practice, would be for the now conservative Supreme Court to stage a showdown with the federal government. It might begin reversing large parts of late 20th century human rights laws. Isn't that happening already? Or back a quasi-secession move by a group of states, such as was implied in the Texas v. Pennsylvania case, where 18 Republican attorneys generals tried to get the Pennsylvania results overturned. How might any of this become possible or logical? The answer is, if Democrats can build an extra legal movement that can consistently and with impunity flout the rule of law. The signal feature of such a movement would be permanent and open interaction between on the one side a group of conservative legislators, judges, and sheriffs, and on the other side the armed militia and fascist street movements that have put on the back foot since January 6th. And how might this happen? Some think Trump gets put on trial and goes to jail. Some think that. I do not think there's an easy answer or inevitable route from Trump's prosecution, a pitched battle between the feds and some militia, but that it is likely a starting point. Trump summons an insurrectional movement. State legislators, local sheriffs, and politicized judges give it legitimacy. The Supreme Court sides with the insurrectionists, while the president is forced to purge the state machine, military, FBI, CIA, of their potential allies. We've seen that too, where they're kicking people out for their beliefs. The progressive masses, meanwhile, do not stand positively by. They take to the streets, and the multi-billion won Chinese disinformation machine goes into overdrive. It's at this point, if you are really unlucky, that you might see the kind of developing world failed state phenomena associated with the beginnings of a civil war, kidnappings, assassinations, unexplained terror attacks, Crimea-style little green men, and the brown shirts Obama wanted. But these incidents themselves do not drive the transition from a broken democracy to civil war. What drives that are decisions among people and elites. The elite of the Confederacy chose war because its mode of extracting the economic surplus from human beings, i.e. slavery, was being supplanted by wage labor machines and global trade. The rebellion was, in essence, an attempt to stop the rise of America as an industrial superpower. Meanwhile, the masses who flocked to fight for both the Union and the Confederacy knew by the outbreak that the conflict would be existential, which means that to win, one had to destroy the lifestyle of the other. Starting to sound familiar? Today, it's not hard to find such sentiments expressed openly. A gun rights advocate, H.L. Richardson, wrote, "There can be no compromises with the left. We are ideologically at opposite ends of the spectrum with no arbitration possible. Either we win or we do. Now, how can we stop it from happening again? The USA, because of its geography and federal constitution, has a recognizable style of civil conflict involving states, courts, elections, and quasi-legal military formations. Any future civil war is more likely to start with motions on the floor of state legislatures than with mysterious bombs. So what can democratic Americans do? The left argues for a tougher democracy with decisive moves against the Electoral College on foreign finance, the overturn of Citizens United, and the regulation of social media content. The problem is each one of these moves is so likely to trigger unrest and so open to manipulation by the disinformation brigades that they are not actually solutions. The unified federal state that needed to enact them does not exist anymore, nor does the Democratic leadership need to promote them, nor is an outright majority for such measures like in Congress. And the U.S. Constitution, which for so long looked like a bulwark against democratic collapse, turns out to be its actual accelerator. The way forward is to recognize, as Lincoln, Fremont, and their generation did, that you are in an existential battle and start fighting back using the full force of the democratic legitimacy. So the first battle is the one Biden is fighting now, to convince the business elite and the upper class that a healthy democracy with the rule of law intact and the armed forces loyal to the president is the precondition for all those dividend checks and pension payouts that come rolling in each year. At the same time, to convince workers, women, and ethnic minorities and the progressive left that this is something they have a stake in, giving the loudness of the anti-imperialist voices on the left, the kind of useful idiots who claim Hillary Clinton is worse than Trump. This is not a foregone conclusion. And then pick a fight with the insurrectionists on ground of your own choosing, and then pick a fight with the insurrectionists on the ground of your own choosing and defeat them using the criminal justice system and the coercive apparatus of the state. I assume this is Biden's logic. Because what we're dealing with here is not just democratic decay or the rise of conditions statistically provable to correlate with pre-Civil War situations. We're dealing with an acute crisis of capitalism, of the global order, and a right-wing populist movement, indeed part of the Republican Party, that is evolved to never again trust the left. For fascists, historically, civil war is not the preferred route to power, at least not the ordinary civil wars. The risk of failure are too great, and those on the left know this. What fascists prefer is to intimidate, capture, and receive patronage from the head of state, and then use state power to enact a wide-ranging coup d'etat against all democratic and labor movements that might oppose them. Sounding familiar yet? That's how Mussolini came to power 100 years ago, and what Hitler did between January and July of 1933. Understanding the route to a potential American civil conflict is the best way to stop one. But we need to understand its drivers lie in the dynamics of capitalism and the specificities of fascism. So, will a civil war happen? Nobody knows. But we know the things that have caused them in the past. And if we keep our eyes open, we can see it actually coming. And as long as we can keep them from operating at the speed of government, I think we're going to be okay. Okay, I think that's going to be about it, guys. It is definitely Friday. Do me a favor, hit that like, hit that subscribe button. If you'd like to support the channel, there are links below. We are looking for new Patreons. We've got some holes to fill in our Patreon. So do me a favor, find that link below. Check out the Patreon. It costs almost nothing. And I hope you all have a great weekend. So stay safe, have a great day, and I shall see you when I see you, which should be on Monday. Bye-bye.